123. We're on.
We're here to investigate a patient that killed 3 innocent teenagers on a Halloween in 1978. He was shot by his own psychiatrist and taken into custody that night. And spent the last 40 years in captivity. Hello, Michael. I have something you might like to see.
I think the real question is, who's the real psychopath? The serial killer or the idiots that decide to go into Haddonfield Prison, or not even Haddonfield Prison, the psychic hospital, and basically piss off the former serial killer? Like, you know, who's the real monster here? Typical white people, man. Typical white people. And this is a white person saying this, but on that positive note, welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We're wrapping October up here with the films of October 19th and October 26th. 7 films to look at here. None bigger than our first movie, and that is the remake of Halloween, coming 40 years after the original. And this time around, you have a post-traumatic Laurie Strode, once again played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who prepares to face and escape Michael Myers in a final showdown on Halloween night, 40 years after she survived his killing spree. And so this one kind of also takes the Superman Returns approach, where they ignore the events of several of the movies, pretty much every movie since the first Halloween film. And this is David Gordon Green, who is mostly known for his comedic works. In fact, the co-writer of this is Danny McBride, who is mostly associated with his comedic work. So it's interesting to see these two going with their horror side here, you know, kind of having the hope that they'll be the next Jordan Peele. But while they're not, this movie still is a very impressive film overall. It's a film where, you know, it's unique seeing this director showing his different side from the comedies that he's used to directing. And you get Jamie Lee Curtis back as Laurie Strode. A cast also includes Judy Greer, Will Patton, Virginia Gardner, and, you know, Michael Myers himself is legitimately terrifying in this. He does, you know, you feel that energy again that's been missing from so many of the Halloween sequels. Even though Halloween 2 and 3 aren't bad films whatsoever, I don't know why they decided to stop for to basically eradicate those films and just go straight for the sequel to Halloween. Just, I don't know, it just feels really odd that they're missing out on the good stuff. I mean, Superman Returns at least remembered Superman and Superman 2 existed, but this was a good movie, and you could tell that these guys really wanted to make a legitimate sequel to the original that didn't feel like something as bad as the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes, which were, the first one was ambitious, second one, not so much. And kind of like with the Rob Zombie films, the first film of this was great, but then they followed it up with 2 films that were part of a trilogy, and I'll tell you right now, those films were not great either, especially Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills, which were just like, you know, it just felt like they didn't have an idea of what they wanted to do for a trilogy of this series. You know, they basically tried to do the same thing with The Exorcist, and they couldn't even get past film 1 before it was dead in the water. So that should tell you something about that. Maybe they should have just kept it into just one solo movie, because yeah, this movie works on its own merits. It doesn't really need a second or third movie back to back, and I really do feel like that if they had just stuck with this one movie in particular, and then make The Exorcist 1 its own movie, these films could have been really good. But the first Halloween film, I will say, is a really good film. The sequels, not so much. But we'll get to Halloween Kills before we're all said and done here. But avoid Halloween Ends like the plague. So let's go ahead and move on to a couple of limited releases. We have Jonah Hill directing his first feature film, and that is mid-90s.
Y'all trying to skate?
Let's go. I'm down.
What about you, little man?
How long you been friends with those guys? A couple months. They're really cool. This is awesome. I've never been in a car without someone's mom or dad before.
You think you're pretty cool. You're just a little kid.
Oh my god, I did it! I did it! Yeah!
Nothing like the simpler days, man. This was before the internet was the norm and, you know, the world was not completely fucked up overall. Good times. Good times indeed. I mean, the mid-90s for me were not the best overall in school, but I survived, so. You have the story of a kid named Stevie, a 13-year-old boy in 1990s Los Angeles, and he escapes a troubled home life and begins spending time with an older group of skateboarders. This is Jonah Hill directing his first feature film and also writing the script for this, and features a young cast that also includes Sonny Soljic, Nicole Smith, Olin Priet, Gia Galicia, Ryder McLaughlin, and also features Alexa Demi, who would be later seen in Euphoria, Catherine Waterston, and Lucas Hedges among its cast. And for a directorial debut by him, Jonah Hill, it's actually a pretty solid film overall. It's a film where you can definitely tell this is a story that he wanted to tell from his previous, something where, I don't want to say his previous life in particular, but, who knows? I don't really know. I don't think Jonah Hill would have been 13 years old around this time, really, the more I think about it. Actually, he would have been. 1983 he was born, so, yeah, there was a possibility that this is basically a movie about his own life in particular, and I could definitely see that from this film. It is a really good movie, and it does show what Jonah Hill can do as a director as a whole, but sadly he's never really been able to follow up on that. The last two films he's directed, the one that came out this year, Outcome, came and went on Apple, and his next film, Cutoff, is a film that can't even get released because Warner Brothers doesn't know how to sell the film in particular. But I don't know how hard it is to sell a movie about Jonah Hill and Kristen Wiig as two wealthy siblings forced to support themselves after their parents cut them off. I mean, it feels like, if Tina Fey and Amy Poehler can do it with Sisters, they could do it with Cutoff here. So I don't know what's going on with that one, but at least with this first film, mid-90s, kind of like with Halloween, the films that came after it from Jonah Hill have not been solid as directorial efforts, but for a first-time outing for him, this one actually did work pretty well, and it's one I do recommend checking out if you haven't seen it. Mid-90s. So speaking of people that are actually surprising you in a number of different ways, let's take a look at Melissa McCarthy in her latest film, Can You Ever Forgive Me?
My secret. I just lost my job, but I figured out a way to pay my bills. I'm embellishing collectible letters. How does 875 sound?
I'll drink to that.
Dearest Rob. Dear friend. Here's your name.
You gave me $1,000.
You sure these are the real thing?
Everybody's on high alert. There have been some forgeries going around.
We can't stop now.
Lee Israel, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Rated R.
The movie that makes you realize, oh yeah, Melissa McCarthy actually can be a really good actress instead of starring in these god-awful comedies that she's always been involved in. So Melissa McCarthy stars as the author of the book that this is based off of, Lee Israel, and it follows her attempt to revitalize her failing writing career by forging letters from deceased authors and playwrights. It features a cast that also includes Richard E. Grant, who actually got nominated for Best Supporting Actor award, as did McCarthy for Best Actress, Dolly Wells, Jane Curtin, Anna Devere Smith, Stephen Spinella, Ben Falcone. A really solid cast overall in this movie, directed by Mariel Heller, who would later go on to direct the Tom Hanks Mr. Rogers movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. A pretty solid director overall, and really creates a compelling story that really does work to the efforts of Melissa McCarthy's acting abilities. I mean, you forget Melissa McCarthy is a really good actress, not just as a comedic actress in stuff like Mike and Molly and Bridesmaids and in Spy, but in a movie like this, where she actually gets to show her dramatic side, and it works very well. It's a really good movie. It's a film that really was, it's one of those Oscar bait movies, but one of the good kind of Oscar bait movies. The type of Oscar bait film where, you watch it and you get more out of it. It doesn't feel like they're trying desperately for that Oscar so badly. No, this feels like a movie where everyone is putting 100% of their effort into it, and it makes for a really good film overall. One I recommend checking out if you haven't seen it, especially if you want to see Melissa McCarthy doing something where she actually gets to show the strengths of her acting abilities in general here. And this film definitely does that and then some. Can You Ever Forgive Me is one I recommend a lot. So those are the films of October 19th, so let's go ahead and move on to the films of October 26th. And not as good of a slate of films as the 19th was. Let's start off with the first film, and that should be an example of the kind of weekend we're in for here. Let's talk about Hunter Killer.
Orders. Admiral Durov is staging a coup.
He's holding the Russian president hostage. We've been ordered to rescue him.
It's the most aggressive military buildup in Russian history.
Not too many training simulations for this one.
Go, go, go! Torpedoes in the water!
You are authorized to protect your crew.
Then you start a war today! Wait for impact!
Hunter Killer, rated R. Theaters October 26th.
So let's take The Hunt for Red October, a very good submarine action thriller, and make it even stupider and make it make no sense whatsoever. And let's give it a title that is so bland and so generic that it makes no sense. I mean, the original title, Firing Point, was much better than Hunter Killer. I mean, the most generic title you can give to a movie like this. I mean, why stop there? Why don't you get even lazier? Just call it Subtrader, because that's what this movie pretty much is. Gerard Butler leads a submarine crew, and him and a group of Navy SEALs rescue the captured Russian president from a coup. You have a cast that also includes Oscar winner Gary Oldman, Common, Linda Cardellini, Toby Stevens, and one of the last films by Michael Nyquist from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And like I said, it's really hard to make an uninspired submarine movie. A submarine movie where there is zero effort being put into it. But boy, did Lionsgate try hard with this one. And they succeeded because, yeah, this movie is awful. I mean, this is a terrible movie, wasting all this talent. Academy Award winners. Gerard Butler's not a bad actor, but man, he picked some really bad movies and killed his career so goddamn immediately. I mean, this movie is lame. I mean, the title is pathetic. It's not action-packed. The twist in the mystery is not that great either. Just a bad movie. Just a bad movie. Avoid Hunter Killer like the plague. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, the sequel that nobody was really asking for, and yet they made it anyway because, hey, the Brits loved it. So let's see if we can work with it to the States. This is Johnny English Strikes Again.
The country is in a state of chaos.
They've hacked us again, Prime Minister.
Tell me the agent you built is capable of saving us.
Oh, for God's sake, English. Oh.
You are now in the capable hands of Her Majesty's Secret Service. Till we meet again. Johnny English Strikes Again.
Yeah, apparently Rowan Atkinson can make a lot of hits in the UK, and then they bring him over to the States, and the results are usually mixed, but sometimes you get a good one here and there, like the Bean movies. I mean, Mr. Bean's Holiday is a really fun movie overall, and I like the first Johnny English film. I thought the second one was kind of your generic action comedy sequel. This one is a little bit better, but not enough for me to say that it warrants existing in general here. You got Rowan Atkinson back as Johnny English, the titular MI7 agent who is called into action when every undercover operative is exposed to a cyber attack. And this one brings back the character of what's his name from the assistant to Johnny English. Who was the guy? Who was the guy from the first movie? Because he wasn't in the second film. Oh, it's Jeremy. It is this guy, Jeremy Bow, who plays Ben Miller, is the guy who plays him in the movie. And you also have Olga Kurylenko, and you also have Jake Lacey, Emma Thompson, Michael Gambon. And the reason why I think this one does work a little bit better is that the jokes I feel like are better put together in this one, and there is more of an effort in this film than there was in the second movie. The second one kind of felt like a film that was just kind of made because the first movie was a success, so Rowan Atkinson felt like he was contractually obligated to be in that film, so they just made a film that really felt like they basically just made a typical bland comedy sequel. This one I think does it a whole lot better because it does go back to some of the magic that kind of made the first film work for what it was. And it was fun. It was a fun movie overall. This is definitely the second best film in the series overall. And I think what makes all these films work is the commitment by Rowan Atkinson. When you watch this guy's work in particular, the guy is very, very funny. There's a reason why people love the character of Mr. Bean. He makes that character work on his own. And Johnny English, he can be really funny when he's being really stupid and yet really smart at the same time. I mean, there's literally things that this guy does where, there's shows where he's literally fighting against both a bee and a baby, and you'd think that's not going to amount to anything, and yet it really kind of does. It makes it actually kind of very funny, and, it's just, I mean, maybe it's just this guy is just such a treasure to watch overall, and, it makes these films kind of fun to watch regardless. Even if they are very stupid, they don't make a whole lot of sense, they're still a ton of fun overall, and yeah, maybe that's why I like this a little bit more. Maybe it's just because I like Rowan Atkinson so much. I think that he is a very funny guy, and he's proven it with a lot of the material that he's done with of course, the Bean films and the Johnny English movies. yeah, it's definitely a film I would say, it's definitely a series I would say, not the best in terms of the story, but what makes it work is the charm and the wit of Rowan Atkinson, who can take something so silly and stupid and make it some very fun, sometimes even smart levels of comedy that just work so well here. Yeah, like I said, Johnny English Strikes Again I think is the second best in the series. Definitely better than the second one. Not quite as good as the first one, but I would recommend it. I was actually kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed it, quite honestly, but there you go. That's my thoughts on Johnny English Strikes Again. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Luca Guadagnino's remake of the classic Suspiria.
It's all a mess. The one up there. The one in here. The one that's coming.
Yeah, definitely a movie that is very polarizing for a number of different reasons. Well, first of all, you're remaking an Italian horror classic in the original Suspiria, which still has a pretty intense marketing campaign overall. If you ever see the trailers for that movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that film still holds a part in a lot of people's hearts as a legitimate classic horror film. This one, you got Luca Guadagnino coming off the success with Call Me By Your Name the year before, so that's already one thing kind of going against him. And, you know, this movie in particular is a film where I've seen the original Suspiria, honestly, and then the second one, and this one here I watched not too long ago, and yeah, comparing the two films, there is some things I like about it with the visuals and all that, but it is definitely one of those movies where I think it does bites off a little bit more than it can chew here. So you got Dakota Johnson as an American woman who enrolls at a prestigious dance academy in Berlin run by a coven of witches. Tilda Swinton stars in 3 different roles as the company's lead choreographer, a male psychotherapist in the academy, and the leader of the coven. I mean, it's Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton's one of those actresses who can play women and male parts very well here, and these conservatives would be like, well, she can't play that role because she's a girl and we need a man to play that role. Tilda Swinton can make that work, and no matter how hard you try to put your conspiracy theories out there, this movie proves that she can make that work. But you also have Mia Goth, Ella Fakina, and Chloe Grace Moretz in this film, along with Angela Winkler, Ingrid Caven, and it even features the original star of the movie, Jessica Harper. And yeah, comparing this to the original film, there is definitely a lot of stuff in here that does not work overall, but at the same time, I admire it for the visual look and the performances overall, and the fact that simply and effectively, it doesn't do a straightforward retreading of the original film. I mean, we see so many of these horror remakes coming out that just basically just do the same thing they did with the original film, except set it in modern times and just give you a lackluster script that really would really hurt. Is not there to really up the original quality of this film's quality over the original. It's just there to make money off of the previous film, and this one definitely has those elements to it. But you could tell Luca Guadagnino was at least trying to do something unique and different with it. I don't think it really worked. I think some of the things they do at the end are kind of ridiculous, but I'll give it credit where credit is due. When it works very well. The casting overall is really good. The acting very good. The visuals are very good. Not a great movie, but definitely one of Luca Guadagnino. One of those interesting films for Luca Guadagnino to do after coming off the big success of Call Me By Your Name. Overall, I like it, but it's definitely a movie where it's not quite as good as the original Suspiria, but that's a really hard thing to do. And the fact that they made it as good as they could do with this, I mean, that's enough to say that you should probably definitely check it out. So, it certainly is a lot better than the last movie, a movie that I did not even know existed until I looked at the thing yesterday, and I'm glad I finally watched it because, wow, this was bad. Let's talk about the infamous London Fields.
Nicholas, falling in love normally ends very badly with me.
Got it. Lives to be watched.
Hello?
Is he here all the time?
You evil witch!
I'm worried that the critics are going to call you a male fantasy figure.
You know I'm gonna kill you, don't you?
Shall we say 8?
Rated R.
Like, what the fuck did I just watch with that trailer? I mean, that trailer is so all over the place and makes no sense whatsoever. And, you know, the movie is bad enough as it is, but then there's this whole battle behind the scenes here. I mean, wow, this is awful. So you got Billy Bob Thornton, who I like the fact that Amber Heard is the top billing in this trailer, and yet Billy Bob Thornton is supposed to be the main star of the movie here. But Billy Bob Thornton stars as Samson Young, a terminally ill writer who suffers from writer's block for 20 years. And this is based off the novel by Martin Amis, who co-wrote the script for this. And not only is the movie really, really awful, with a lot of really bad performances in here, and more cringeworthy Charles Nelson Riley tug at your shirt going like, oh, like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp are in this movie, and, you know, that's bad enough as it is, but this thing legitimately had a battle going on here, because the director was suing the film's producers, accusing them of fraud, and using his name to promote a cut of the film that he didn't support. And so they basically reached a settlement, and the film was eventually released. And then the cut that is, and the fact that this was the cut that they went with here, it got 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. You understand how bad you have to be to get a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes? I mean, that's how bad this movie was, man. I mean, this thing was just an abomination. I mean, this thing is such an abysmal mess. The acting is awful. The source is, you know, this thing really... I've never read the book before, so I can't really say how it compares to the source material, but even I can tell you that even though I've never read the book, people who read this book probably looked at this and said, like, oh, fuck you. Like, I mean, it's a bad movie, man. It's a terrible film. What more can you say, man? London Fields, don't even bother trying to go to this. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And so, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we jump into November. And you know what that means. The holiday season is upon us. The Oscar films are coming out in droves. And we also have the Christmas movies. And we'll have 2 of those movies this weekend to start the month off. With Bryan Singer directing the Queen biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody, which up until Michael this year was the most successful musical biopic of all time. And just like Michael, it's nowhere near as good as people make it out to be. We'll touch on it tomorrow. We'll also touch on my pick for the worst movie of 2018, and that is easily The Nutcracker in the Four Realms. I mean, if Disney can't even take The Nutcracker and make a good movie out of it, then it's just time to stop trying, man. Every studio has tried a hand at making a Nutcracker movie, and, you know, this one didn't do it well at all. And also, we have Nobody's Fool, Tyler Perry's first film outside of Lionsgate, directing at Paramount. So we'll take a look at them tomorrow. With all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification button. Check out our playlist and check out the previous episode. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care. Bye.